Good morning, it's the 12th of March, it's around about 10-11 o'clock in the morning. I'm at Katie's apiary in Beighton, and because of the lockdown restrictions I'm having to do this inspection solo, but what I will be trying to do is just make a quick record of it on camera, and then everyone can have a look at what's happening here in Beighton. So we'll start off with this far hive, the right hand side one, and we'll have a quick look inside and see what progress they're making so far. And what I can tell straight away is that they're producing lots of propolis. And the feeder was stuck down really well. Just have a look on the bottom of it, see if you can see the queen. No sign of her there. And then with first appearance we've got 6 very full busy frames inside. So let's have a look what we can see. Right, frame number 1. You'll see there's nectar on that side. And on the other side, if you can see that, there's lots of pollen being stored, so that's really encouraging. It's telling me there's lots of food for the new brood. The second frame, well, the queen's been very busy there, really good laying pattern, lots of nectar, lots of pollen, lots of capped brood, same on the next side as well, lots of pollen, lovely ring of pollen around the capped brood and nectar on the outside. Frame 3. Lots of emerging brood, the gaps in the middle are being fully laid out, pollen and brood and nectar on both sides. Frame 4. Again, good laying pattern, lots of eggs, frame fully laid up with eggs, brood in the middle and uncapped larvae, again pollen on both sides. So this colony is foraging really well, and I'd suggest on the next visit we could probably do with putting a second box on top of it. Next frame, lots of pollen again. And the final frame, nothing on the far side, on the inner side lots of nectar. So I'm absolutely delighted with that colony. It's making really good progress. It had oxalic acid treatment for the first time this year last week, so it'll be having another dose of oxalic acid, a vapour, at the end of the video. I'll probably do that off camera because it's a bit boring, but they're doing absolutely great. No worries with those whatsoever. They're developing really well. Now this next colony, we're going to transfer it into a full-size hive. Because when we inspected last week, it was growing really well, and the queen only had a little space to move in. And if you remember checking Hooper's 5 rules for beekeeping, one of the 5 rules is to ensure that there's always enough room for the queen to lay. Well, I'm suspecting that we'll probably find she's got very little room today, and for that reason we're going to move from a 6 frame nucleus colony. This one's made by Maysmore Apiaries, and these can be found at beesonline.co.uk. We're going to move to a full-size colony, again a poly one. I was really impressed with the way that the bees progressed over winter in poly. So we'll build it up now. So we've got at the bottom a baseboard with a screen for ventilation, and also a pull out floor as well, which we're going to leave half open just to allow some ventilation. And you'll see it's painted in very funky colours. That's thanks to Georgia. She's done an absolutely fantastic job painting that while she's been off school. And you'll see the bees now are actually returning. And let's get a nice, bright, colourful front to the hive. There we go, that looks lovely. So just assemble it up now. And just so you can see what we've got inside, we have a number of new frames, 5 of those, and then we'll transfer 6 in, the 6 from the nucleus colony, making this an 11 frame box. So while we're doing that, we'll do a quick inspection. And we'll just see what progress is like, what the progress is. Again, this feeder is propelised down really well. No queen underneath, and on first appearance, ouch, ouch, ouch. On first appearances they seem to be very strong indeed, and a bit feisty. So do bear with me, I'm just going to get the smoker. So now I've returned with a smoker, and hopefully this might just calm them down a little bit. So the outer frame, left hand side, absolutely full of brood. Looking really well with stores. Next frame over. Plenty of pollen. Lots of eggs in there. Looks like they've been laid within the last 24 hours. Frame 3. Lots of brood, lots of pollen, lots of nectar on both sides. Next frame, lots of larvae on both sides and eggs, some sealed brood and nectar once again. Lots of pollen, fully laid out with brood. This colony is going to explode within the next 21 days. It's going to double in size. And then the final frame. Once again, lots of brood, some honey, lots of nectar and pollen. That's a really strong frame as well. Now, just to encourage the bees, and because the temperatures are getting warmer, to encourage them to grow, I'm going to do something called checkerboard them, which is to place empty frames between the drawn out ones. This will encourage the bees to draw more wax and in doing so create more space for the queen to lay and more room for the bees to progress. The advantage of doing this by creating more space is that it reduces the chances of the bees wishing to swarm and become a nuisance, and of course losing half the colony. There we go, all the frames in. Now we'll just assemble the hive. It'll take them a little while to realise that they're in a new home. So the first thing that we'll put on is this crown board. It's a ventilated crown board. Comes with a hive again, expertly painted. In a couple of weeks we'll be putting a honey super on there to try and pull honey off, possibly next week depending on how well they expand. And this is the honey super. Now the bees can't come up into the super because of the crown board, but that's there, ready. And between the honey super and the brood box we'd normally place a queen excluder. That stops the queen coming up laying brood in there, and it means that we just get stores in the top box which hopefully will turn into honey. So we've got a queen excluder and then the lid. Again, expertly painted by Georgia, and on the front of the box we've got a mouse guard, although I can't imagine there'll be many mice around now. So we'll leave that open and that sits in the slot. Now there are a few bees left in this box. We'll just tap them down and they'll find the queen in the hive and move up in no time. They're playing silly devils at the moment. They're going underneath the box, but we'll give them a little time. They'll find their way in. So the only thing for me to do now is give them both a brief oxalic acid treatment, and I'll do that off camera, and that's the inspection and the transfer for today. Hi, well I'm up at Steve's apiary, and the date today is, let's have a look, it's April the 12th, it's 11:30 in the morning, Easter Sunday. Let's have a quick look inside this colony. This one was showing really good signs of progression last week. We're looking really good. And see how they're doing this week. So there's no queen on the bottom there, had a quick glance. Last week we placed a new super on top, and first impressions are that they are pulling wax on 2 frames. Frame 3 fully drawn on both sides with lots of nectar stored. Frame 4 pull fully on one side, not the other. The 2 outer frames I'm just going to move to the middle to encourage them to pull those and move those over. I'm confident that they'll be fully pulled out within the week, and probably within the next few days we should have most of the frame's full with nectar. Now I have placed a queen excluder between the super and the main brood box for the purposes of keeping the queen contained in the bottom. This is a metal queen excluder. Just check the queen's not on there. No, she's not. We'll bang that down. Have a very quick look inside this hive before putting it back together again. After I've done the inspection, I'll give them a quick treatment with oxalic acid. I'll probably do that off camera because it's nothing exciting to watch. We'll start off on the outer side and we'll just see what we're looking like. We're using the J part on the hive tool. We'll lift the frame up so we don't damage the poly box. First impressions are good. Big slab of brood on both sides. Lots of pollen stored and nectar. That frame is absolutely full. There's no room in there for the queen to do anything more. Next frame, fully laid out with brood. Come on, down there. Shh, come on. Third frame, again full of brood. We are going to have to put another brood box on here to discourage them from swarming. This next frame, eggs and larvae on both sides. Fifth frame, lots of cap brood, lots of pollen, lots of nectar. It's a really strong colony. Final frame, again masses of brood, sealed, lots of pollen and nectar and larvae. Yes, without a doubt this needs another brood box on, and I'll probably get that on possibly later today. So really delighted with that that colony. Massive growth. In fact, it's really a candidate to go into a full-size hive now. So I might pop back later with something a bit more appropriate. Moving on to the next colony. This is a double brood box with a super on top. We'll see how well this looks, see if it's doing as well as the first one. I'm really impressed with the last one. Let's see how well this one's doing. Now it's a bit high up, so I'm going to lift it down and inspect it on the table, and hopefully you'll be able to see this through the camera a little bit better as well. And they've properlised that one down really well. This box was put on recently as well. Oh, and it's very, very heavy. So I'm guessing that they may have pulled this out with wax, and it's looking encouraging looking inside. This time I'll start at this side and move across. Yep, fully pulled out, lots of wax, full of nectar. Frame 2, bit of crazy comb at the bottom, we'll get rid of that. Again, fully pulled out in the course of a week, and lots of nectar stored. Next frame, exactly the same, lots of nectar. This will probably be capped over next week. Once again the same, heavy with nectar. This one also fully pulled out. and that one as well. So they've done remarkably well in a week. Right, let's have a look at the upper brood box. Again, proper lights down really well. Really well. And that is one crazy heavy box. Ugh. Feels like 6 frames of lead. Okay, let's see what progress we've made inside here. Give those a quick smoke as well to encourage those to go down. Well, that's almost a full frame of nectar. They've started sealing it off already. Plenty of brood in this corner, drone comb, like you see. If you have a look at the top of the frame, you'll see capped honey, and just below lots of nectar and brood comb down in this bottom corner. The other side just drawn out with a good reserve of nectar. Honey stored at the top, lots of nectar to the side, some queen cups at the bottom, which is an indication that they're getting ready to consider swarming. We'll get rid of those queen cups. No queen cells, I'm glad to say. Absolutely solid brood pattern, nectar, honey at the top with some pollen. Moving on to frame 4. Masses of pollen, drone comb, lots of brood, lots of nectar, honey stored at the top. First appearances are good. Frame full of brood and pollen, and a good bit of nectar stored as well. In fact, I'll bring you a little bit closer. And just make sure you can see everything. So as you can see there, good amount of brood. Same on that side as well, all capped. Lots of nectar down the side and lots of pollen as well. This frame, lots of nectar, lots of pollen, fully laid out with brood, with eggs and small larvae, probably about 2 days old on both sides. Frame full of pollen, absolutely solid. You know, I think I might pop back and do a split from this colony. It's so strong. and they need the extra room as well. Again, masses of brood, sealed, lots of stores. Absolutely no complaints with this colony whatsoever. It's the strongest I've ever seen it. Queen cup, let's have a look at that. Nothing in there, they're just playing. Looking on this side as well. Super strong. Absolutely fantastic. So we'll reassemble this one. They'll both get an oxalic acid treatment, and then I'll have to decide whether I'm going to come back and put this in a larger colony, a larger hive, or whether I do some splits from it. I'll make that decision at some point within the next few minutes. Okay, so from Steve's apiary, we'll call it a day at that point. I'll do an oxalic acid treatment. And I think what I'm going to do is dip back a little later today and put another box on each one. We'll see how it progresses for next time. This definitely needs a larger hive. Lots of brood, lots of pollen, lots of nectar, honey, no queen cells. Superb. And the final frame. Oh. Half full of capped honey. Tremendous amounts of pollen, lots of nectar. Fantastic. Now we'll look at the final part of this colony, the lower brood box, before assembling it all again.